So we have entered a new period of time in the Jewish calendar, and that is something called Ben HaMitzarim. And this term Ben HaMitzarim. So it's based on the pasuk that in the beginning of Eicha, that called Rotfeha Hisigua Ben HaMitzarim, that all those who chased after her, meaning the Jewish people, found her, meaning they captured her, Ben HaMitzarim. And literally the word Ben HaMitzarim means the confinements, the Meitzar. The Meitzar is a boundary. It's something that's confining you, containing you. So these Ben HaMitzarim, this is the time that we commemorate between the fast of Shavuos Tammuz today and Tisha B'Av, 3 weeks, and between those Mitzarim, that's the time of mourning called Ben HaMitzarim. So what's the? It's a process. It's clearly a sequence. It's clearly a progression that it starts in place A and it gets to place B. And so to understand that, so we have to look into the Mishnah, because what are we really commemorating on these days of Shavuos Tammuz and Tisha B'Av? So on the most simple level, so it's both regarding the destruction of the temple. Today was Shavuos Tammuz was the beginning of the siege on Jerusalem, and the actual burning of the temple was on Tisha B'Av. Right? In fact, the truth is that from in a certain perspective, Shavuos Tammuz was really greater, was really worse, because once the siege began, it was the beginning of the end. Like there was no turning back. There was no possibility. Like the fact that they actually went in flames, that was really just the cherry on top, so to speak. So the breaking was really today, and that it climaxed to a Tisha B'Av. Okay, but really, so that's on the first level. However, the Mishnah says in Tainas that really there's an underlying theme that is setting the tone for these 2 days, because many years earlier, so on Shavuos Tammuz, so we had the Chet HaEgel, we had the sin of the golden calf, and as a result of that, so we have the breaking of the 2 tablets. We have the Shviras Haluchos. Okay, and many years earlier, in the same year as the golden calf, we had another sin, which was on the 9th of Av, which was the Chet HaMeraglim, sin of the spies, that they, in the words of Tehillim, Vayima'asu be'eretz Chemda, that they were disgusted by a beloved, treasured land. Okay, that they didn't have enough of respect and appreciation for the land of Israel, and that's what led them to the sin of the spies, and that's what really paved the way for the destruction of the temple. Okay, so really, that when we're talking about the underlying themes behind these 2 days, so one could say that Shavuos Tammuz was the breaking of the luchos, was the breaking of the Torah, that the beginning of the Torah was broken, and the Tisha B'Av was that the destruction went from the Torah to the land. Okay, went into the land. That actually the fire actually consumed the land of Eretz Yisrael, the Beit Hamikdash. So I want to focus on that from the perspective of Shavuos Tammuz, of the fact that Shavuos Tammuz represents that we lost the Torah, that we lost this a certain light of the first luchos. Now the Gemara says, what's the difference between the first luchos and the second luchos? So there's numerous differences. That the greatest difference was that the first luchos was purely Hashem. That was Hashem made the tablets themselves, and it was completely a God-made job. For the second luchos, so Hashem says to Moshe, Psalacha shnei luchot avadim kabishanim, that you have to chisel them, you have to create the tablets themselves. I'm going to write them, but the tablets are going to be from you. Okay, so what's the difference between the first luchos and the second luchos? So the first luchos was everything from Hashem. The second luchos is that we need our involvement. Okay, so the Gemara tells us that, we mentioned this in the class about Tammuz, that as a result of the Shviras Haluchos, so there was a difference in our connection to Torah for all eternity. That if it wouldn't have been for the breaking of the first luchos, so every time that we would learn Torah, we would remember it forever. Okay, it would stay part of our existence, and it's only the concept of forgetting something, the concept of that we don't retain everything that we learn. That's only as a result of the fact that the first luchos were destroyed, and that's why, if you recall, Rebbe Nachman writes that that Tammuz is a Rashi Tevos for Zichru Torat Moshe. Remember the Torah of Moshe, because the forgetting of Torah comes from Tammuz. Okay, so the essence of the breaking of the tapas was our connection to Torah. That we have a weaker connection to Torah that forever and ever, and we have it's not so clear, and therefore it goes in one ear, goes out the other. Okay, that's our connection to Torah is much weaker as a result of this day of Shavasar B'Tammuz. Okay. So now, I want to share with you a Torah that's from Rebbe Nachman. This Torah can be found in the Likutei Moharan Tinyana in volume 2, Torah Samech Zayin, 67. Okay, this is the Torah where Rebbe Nachman talks about the Churban Beis Hamikdash, the destruction of the temple, and very interestingly, he said this Torah on Shabbos Bereshis. He said this on Shabbos Bereshis, which is you would not think that he would be talking about Churban Beis Tisha B'Av. It's very it's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite. Now there is a connection, by the way, that there's a famous teaching from the Maharsha that the 22 days of the 3 weeks is corresponding to the 22 days from Rosh Hashanah until Simchas Torah. That as a result of really making the most of these 3 weeks, so we can really get everything that we need, as if we can have a miniature Simchas Torah and Tisha B'Av, if you really make the most out of it. It's really just two sides of the same coin. So it's right after Simchas Torah, he was talking about Tisha B'Av, so maybe that's why. And the truth was that there's a whole story behind this Torah, that he's in this Torah he speaks about the tzaddik and the passing of the tzaddik, and part of what was going on over here was a crazy story that he felt the Ruach HaKodesh that his dear friend Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev had passed away, and the word had not yet gotten to Uman, and nobody had. I don't remember if it was Uman or Breslov at the time, but the word hadn't gotten to Rebbe Nachman yet, nor his Hasidim, and there wasn't social media. There was no newspapers. There was no way to know, and he just felt it very strongly. And when he said this Torah, so it was very clearly a hesped, a eulogy for his dear friend Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. So he starts the Torah by saying that the Zohar talks about these ananim shemachasim al eina, that these clouds that cover up the eyes, and the Zohar says zu rumi rabasi v'rumi ze'erta, that this is the great Rome and the minor Rome. So the big Rome and the small Rome. So this Rome is the Romans were the people who destroyed the second temple, right? So the Romans, that they represent this cloud that cover up our eyes. Okay. Now, parenthetically, what's the Rome A, Rome B? What is the big almost. I mean, there's no good side of Esav, but I saw brought down from the sefer called Pischei Sha'arim, which was written by Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, who is a student of Rav Mendel of Shkolov, who is a student of the Vilna Gaon. Okay, Rav Mendel of Shkolov. There's a street in Har Nof named after him, and it just drives me crazy when people call the name of the street Mishkolov, because it's not Mishkolov, it's Mishklov. It's from Shkolov. Anyway, so Rabbi Isaac Chaver, the student of the Gaon, so he quotes that he heard in the name of the Gaon, in the name of the Gra, that when the Zohar talks about the big Rome and the small Rome, it's a reference to Esav and Yishmael. Okay, that the great Rome is Esav, which is the Christian world, and the small Rome represents the Arab world. Okay, so these are the two forces that cover up our eyes. Okay, so he connects this with another idea, that the lack of seeing, the lack of sight, lack of ability to see properly. So he connects this with another idea that the Gemara says in Shabbos Kuf Nun Aleph, that when you cry, so crying takes away from your ability to see clearly. Okay, the Gemara Dashan's a pasuk says V'shavu ha'avim achar hageshem, that the clouds come after the rain. So the Gemara says, what's the rain? It's not referring to the rain in the street. It's referring to the rain in your eyes. That when your eyes are raining, so then the clouds come. Why? Because when you cry, so you aren't able to see so well. Okay, so there's a negative quality. There's something when we're crying. Crying is a natural result of when bad things happen. But when we cry, the fact that the pain is showing up in our eyes, so that's actually affecting us. And that's Hashem's way of saying that because you're in so much pain, so your vision is going to be a little bit altered. Okay? And he says that this is also part of the reason why the sun sets in the west. Why does the sun set in the west? Because west in Hebrew is ma'arav. Is ma'arav, right? So ma'arav, Rebbe Nachman says, is a reference to, is a Rashi Tevot for Rachel mevaka al baneha. Okay, if we switch it around, okay, Rachel, Resh, mevaka, mem, al, ayin, baneha, bet. So ma'arav is Rachel mevaka al baneha because it's Rachel Imenu's job to be constantly crying over the fact that her children are in exile, that her children aren't the way that they're supposed to be, that they're suffering. And so Rachel Mevakar, she is the matriarch of crying. So that's why Rachel Mevakar, that is expressed in the Ma'arav, in the west. And that's why, what happens in the west? What happens in the west is that the sun goes down. Because when you cry, so then you aren't able to see so well, because the light goes out. Okay? And that's how he explains, that's why the Kotel Ma'aravi. And that's why what is the remnant that we have of the Beit Hamikdash is the western wall. Okay? Why the western wall? Because Ma'arav is all about crying. And it says that the Shechina never left the western wall, that the Shechina in the western wall, and the Shechina, what's it doing? The Shechina is crying. Okay? And that's why it needed to be the western wall. It couldn't have been any other wall.
Why when you cry you can't see because of the teardrops?
I mean, I think he means it more than that. Like, you also can't see if you wash out your eyes with water, if you put on sunglasses, if you put on a cover. I think he means something more deep than that. I think he means that it's not good for your. It's not good like on a spiritual level. I'll tell you what I think he means. To be honest, the part of when a person cries. So I once heard in the name of the Maharami Prague that the word bechi, which is bechia, which is crying, so it's connected to the word navoch. Navoch means confused, right? V'ha'ir shushan navocha, right? Nevuchim hem ba'aretz, sagar alehem hamidbar. But the word navoch means to be confused. So you cry when you're overwhelmed. When you don't have clarity, that crying is a natural expression of our body when we are overwhelmed by emotion. Okay, meaning that we can't process this intense amount of emotion in our body, and that's why you can cry for happy things too. You can hear good news and start crying, and it's happy tears. It's like crying is simply the disability of the body to process a certain amount of a certain event, something that's going on. So that's why this confusion, this lack of being able to process, this just being just open mouthed and just in shock of what's going on, that you have nothing to say, you have nothing to digest, and your response is only crying. That is really what it means, that your vision goes away. Okay? Because you aren't able to see it, you aren't able to compartmentalize it, you aren't able to see it with clarity. Okay, so this is why. So that's why the Kodesh Maravi has to be in the west. Okay, so now he continues by explaining that there's two opposite forces. This is also based on the Zohar. There's two opposite forces in the world. One is called Me'orei Or. The other one is called Me'orei Esh. Okay, that the light of light and the light of fire. So he's differentiating between light and fire, and he's saying that light, or so that's something very beautiful. That's something that is on the first day of creation, Hashem created light, and he said that this light was so good, it's so precious that it's too good for mankind. So he was made it to Or HaGanuz. He put it to be concealed for tzaddikim. So Or is something very, very holy and very beautiful, and that's Or. Eish is fire. Fire destroys. Okay, so Or is to have the light without the negative quality, without any consumption, without any damage, without any destruction. So that's so we have Or and Ish. When there's a lot of Or, then there isn't Ish. When there isn't Or, then there is Ish. Okay, so he says that there's a converse relationship between the Or in the world and the Ish in the world. Okay, so it's confusing because sometimes Ish is a good thing. Rebbe Nachman himself said that my fire will burn until Mashiach comes. So, but he's talking about that Ish is a negative thing. Ish is a power of destruction. Like he brings the pasuk that says that by the Beit Hamikdash, that Vayatzet, that it says, what's the pasuk? Mimarom shalach et ish ba'atzmotai. That Hashem sent down fire into my bones. Okay, so that's a reference to the fire of destruction. So where does the fire of destruction come from? It comes from the fact that there isn't Or. Okay, that there's Or against ish. Okay, Or is when we're able to see. Or is what enables us to have clarity. And Ish is when we don't have clarity, so then we have destruction. Okay? So now, just to circle back, we started by saying that Shavuos B'Tammuz is really started by the Shviras Haluchos, which is really the destruction of the Torah, which is really the destruction of our connection to the Torah. So that's really the lack of clarity, right? That part of all of the ambiguity that we have in Torah is actually as a result of this. Because it's only because we forget. Many of the machloksim in Judaism, many of the disagreements we have, that it's all because of forgetting. It's all because the teaching went over at some point, and there was a dispute between the students. What did the Rebbe say? So really, a lot of the ambiguity in Judaism is all because of the Shviras Haluchos. Right? If it wouldn't have been for the Shviras Haluchos, then there would have been much more clarity, and we would always know. I've had this I've had people come with me with a problem that they said, Rabbi, how can I commit to a Judaism that nobody really knows what they're saying. Nobody really knows what they're talking about. It's everything is a machlikas. There's no clarity. I think I told you once that this was the argument of Damascus. He came to Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, and he was actually using this as an excuse to not be religious. It was actually an excuse to not be religious.
That's a good point.
And so Reb Chaim answered him on the spot. He said, "It's not true. There's more things in Shas that are agreed upon than things that are not agreed upon." But if you think about it, like that, if you take all the things that are not clear, but there's so much more which is clear. So it's not like that we might be like barking up the wrong tree. It's like tachlis, it's details. Tachlis is details. So there's other responses. There's other responses to the question, but there's no doubt that the fact that we have machakas makes it a lack of clarity. Okay. So this is the Gemara says, the Midrash says that there's a pasuk in Tehillim, I believe. Am ha'olchim b'choshech yir'u or gadol. The nation that walks through the darkness will see a great light. So the Midrash says, what's it mean? Am ha'olchim b'choshech zu Talmud Bavli. That's a reference to the Shas that we have, that it's like we're grappling in the dark because there's so much that we don't understand. There's so much doubt. There's so much vagueness and so that's called going b'choshech. Okay, so all of this choshech that we have to grapple with. So it's all the result of the lights going out. Okay, so and it's not just Torah. It's not just Torah. That the Torah is supposed to be our light. Like the pasuk says, that ner mitzvah, the Torah, or Torah is our light. Torah is our light. So if we don't have Torah, so then we have no idea what we're doing in life. That the Torah is what gives us direction. When we don't know what to do. So what do? We open up the Torah, and like it's supposed to give us. It's supposed to be our compass. It's supposed to show us the way. And so when our connection to Torah is messed up, so our whole compass in life is messed up, and then we're really lost, and we're really lost. So this is what we're mourning. This is what's so sad about Shavas Tammuz is that we don't have clarity, that we're living in darkness, that we're living that and because there's so much darkness, so it's easy to make a mistake. It's easy to the people can take us, can waver us to the wrong place, and they can convince us that really it's all that you're making a mistake, and they can if there would be clarity, so then there wouldn't be any Yitzhar. Like, the one of the greatest things Rebbe Nachman says later in the Torah, one of the things that the lack of clarity hurts us the most is lack of clarity in emunah, clarity of the existence of God, and that is something that if somebody asks you who needs a Beit Hamikdash, why do you care so much that there's no Beit Hamikdash? So what's the answer? The answer is that when there's a Beit Hamikdash, you feel and you know that there is a God. There is no room for doubt in the existence of God when you have a Beit Hamikdash. And to the point that the Vilna Gaon said, the Vilna Gaon said about himself. The Vilna Gaon lived 400 years ago. He said that he's far from a Rishon. He's far from a Rishon. But Rishon is like the commentators in the medieval times, like Rashi and the Rambam, Rashba. So he says he's far from a Rishon, but he can imagine what it would be like. He can imagine he can connect to he can imagine what it would be like to have the brains of a Rishon. Like, he's not a Rishon, but like he's seen enough, he understands that like he doesn't have the kind of brain process that the Rishonim have, but he can sort of understand what it means to be a Rishon. But he said, but a peasant that lived during the time of the first Beit Hamikdash, he doesn't have the beginning of a comprehension. He can't begin to understand just the way that the brain of a simple peasant in the times of Beit Hamikdash, the way his brain worked. Why? Because anybody that was alive in times of the first Beit Hamikdash, so they were living with the existence of God, and it was a whole different reality. It was completely different reality. There was no that there. It's like the difference between and this is even the difference between first Beit Hamikdash, second Beit Hamikdash. It says that when he built the second Beit Hamikdash, so the young generation was rejoicing, and the old generation was crying, because the old generation that remembered it was only 70 years. So the old generation, that the 80-year-olds that were 10 years old when the Beit Hamikdash was destroyed, so they remembered what it was like to have the first Beit Hamikdash, and when they saw the second Beit Hamikdash, they said, "That's it." They realized that there's no Shechina. They realized that this is it's like a zecher. It's like we go to the Kotel for Birkat Kohanim instead of going to the Beit Hamikdash. So like that's how they felt. That's how they felt. They were going to the second Beit Hamikdash without the Shechina was like going to Birkat Kohanim without the Beit Hamikdash.
The second Beit Hamikdash didn't have the Shechina.
Right. It says in Yoma. Also didn't have the Aron Habrit. Didn't have the Aron. There was 5 things it says that was missing in the second Beit Hamikdash. the Vilna Gaon said that a person who was living in time of the first Beit Hamikdash, so they had a consciousness of God. There was no room for doubt. There was no possibility of atheism when you have a Beit Hamikdash, and so that's the biggest lights out, if you will. That without the Beit Hamikdash, then there is no light. There's no clarity of God. Okay, so this is what we are mourning. This is why it's so bad that we don't have a Beit Hamikdash, because we don't have clarity of God, because we don't have clarity of life. We don't have clarity of what to do. So this is why it's really, really messed up. This is what we're mourning. This is what it means that the or went out, and instead of the or we have Eish, which is the destruction. Okay, so how do we fix it? What is the way to make the most of this situation to get our lights back? So now Rabbi Nachman he talks about two ideas. So we started by saying that really, and that even though he was hiding it, that this whole Torah was a hesped, was a eulogy for the Beit. And some of the students of Rabbi Nachman wrote afterwards that they understood from him that actually he was giving a eulogy for himself. That he understood that this is what he was talking about, the tzaddik. So he was actually talking about the Beit, but he was also talking about himself. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman writes that through the tzaddik, niftachim ha'inayim shel ha'olam. That through the tzaddik, so the eyes of the world are able to be opened. So when you have a tzaddik and you're close to the tzaddik and you spend time with the tzaddik and you hang around the tzaddik, so then that is what opens up your eyes. That is what it gives back the sight that you lost through crying. It gives back the sight that you lost through this trauma that just shook you up. It gives you back the sight that you lost through the breaking of the luchos, and it's able to retain. It's able to return to you that this ability to see life properly. Okay? And that's why it says in the Torah that we talk about the Gedolei Hadar. We call them the Einei Ha'edah. We call them the eyes of the nation, the eyes of the community. Why are they the eyes of the community? Because it's through the tzaddikim that we have eyes. It's through the tzaddikim they're able to see life. Through the tzaddikim they're able to really understand. So what does this mean? What does this mean? So obviously the first thing is that the tzaddikim, the people, they're the people that get it. They're the people that even though the Torah is so dark and it's so vague and it's so confusing, but they're the ones, the tzaddik, he's the one who's able to break through all this darkness, to break through all this confusion, and he's able to get clarity. And that's why when you, it's actually very funny that in yeshivas today, so there's a bit of confusion on this topic. That a true Talmid Chacham is a person who has clarity. Right? In some yeshivas and in some communities, so you can be awarded the status of Talmid Chacham if you are able to confuse anybody. Because there's a nice thing in yeshivas. So what they do is they broaden your horizons. They expand your mind to look at things from different perspectives. So everything is confusing. There's nothing in life, there's nothing in Torah that there aren't 2 or 3 or 4 different ways to look at it, right? So there's one sugya that Rav Gustman from Netzach Yisrael. So he wrote a shir of 16 different approaches in the sugya. It's sometimes usually you just learn Rashi, then you learn Rashi and Tosfos. They have 2. He had 16 different approaches. Okay, so in some yeshivas they applaud the ability to confuse. Okay, if I'll come to you and you'll just ask me enough questions that I'll say, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's a good thing, but that's not really good, because if you're really confused, so then you would have been better off not talking to him, right? A real Talmid Chacham is that you thought you understood, and then when you start speaking to the Talmid Chacham, then you say, oh my gosh, he really understands. Then you come out more clear, not more confused, right? Okay. So the Talmid Chacham, he is the one that has clarity. So when you speak to the Talmid Chacham, you get how he processed all of this information, how he got to his conclusions, and you're able to use that, and you're able to incorporate that into your life. And the truth is that when we talk about the tzaddik as being the Einei Ha'eda, so it's not just about Torah, it's about every aspect of life. That's why the Gemara says that Godol Shimusha Yoter Milimuda, that hanging out, the Talmid Chacham Shalom, that hello. So it says that when we're trying to connect to tzaddikim, so it's not just about learning Torah from them, it's about learning life from them. Okay, what do you mean? So it says this by Elisha, that Elisha was the student of Eliyahu Navi, and when the Torah talks about the greatness of Elisha, so it doesn't say that he was a student. It says that Elisha was great because he was the one that would accompany Eliyahu. It says he would help him wash his hands. It was the one he served him physically, and so the Gemara learns from there. The Gemara in Ksuba says that it's actually greater to help out your rabbi physically than to be his student in class. So the Gemara explains why. Because there's so much that you learn just from life. There's so much that you learn that in the classroom, everything is like a ulterior reality. That it's the things that you only get when you actually hang around a person in real life. Like I remember when I was in Shir, so I was a student of Rebbe Levitz, and so after Shir, so he would walk home, and we would walk him home, and there was things like the way that he greeted people, the way one thing that I remember laughing at myself for this is that there was a shortcut to get to his house. So there was a road here and a road here, and there was a shortcut you can go here, but this would actually belong to a different yeshiva. So you could cut through the yeshiva and it would have saved him 2 minutes twice a day or 4 times a day, or every day, many minutes. Okay, he never cut through. It was that's you go on the road, you were going to cut through it. He was a very noble person. That's not something that he would do, to cut through a yeshiva to save time. And the way that he would relate to if he would have to stop at the grocery store, the way that he would relate to the people in line, the way that he would relate to the cashier, the way that he would relate to his wife, the way he would relate to his kids. That these are things that if you just know a person from classroom, so then you'll never learn how to live life. So that's what it means. That's what Quran means. The Gadol Shimusha Gesem Milimuda. And the Talmid Chacham, he's the one that he learned from Torah. He knows how to look at life properly. He has the proper perspective on everything. And that's why he's the Einei Ha'eda. That's why the tzaddikim are the Einei Ha'eda. There's the eyes of the nation. And that's why by connecting to the tzaddik, so we actually get our perspective back. Okay, so this is the first thing. This is the first thing, and this is in the class about Tammuz. So we spoke about the fact that Tammuz is all about sight. That the midah, the sense that's connected to the month of Tammuz, is the midah of sight, and how to improve our perception in life. And so one of the reasons why Tammuz is about perception is because now that we don't have a Beit Hamikdash, so now there is no light, now we don't have direction, now we're just confused, so all of our perception is just a little bit off. Okay, so that's the first thing. His first idea of how to overcome the fact that as a result of not having Beit Hamikdash, so we have no light, we have no direction, and then we have no clarity. The second thing is it's working. Or is it stop working? I think it's okay. Right? Okay, good. Okay. The second thing is that there's another way that we can improve our vision. another way that we can improve our perception on life, and that is through Shabbat. He brings a pasuk that it says, "Ru'u ki Hashem natan lachem et Shabbat." So it says, see that Hashem gave you Shabbat. Okay? The Gemara in Shabbos learns out from here that if you give somebody a present, you have to let them know. So you shouldn't slip them a present, and that if you give a person a present, you have to let them know. And we learned that from the fact that Hashem says, "Ru'u ki Hashem natan lachem et Shabbat," that look, notice, I gave you a good present. So, but from the fact that the Torah says, look, so we see that there's something about Shabbos that gives you vision, that gives you clarity. And so why is that? So Shabbat, the Zohar says is Shin Bat. Shin Bat. What is Shin Bat? So Shin has 3 legs. The letter Shin in Hebrew has 3 legs. And then Bat means daughter. Okay, so 3 legs and a daughter. So what's the 3 legs and a daughter? So this has many interpretations. That part of it is that the 3 avot and the children, but the Zohar says that one of the things about the 3 legs and the daughter is it's a reference to the eye, because the eye has 3 colors plus the pupil. Okay, I believe that it's the light. The white is the first one, and then surrounding the color that we have is black, and then is the color eye that we have, and then is the pupil. The pupil is the bat eye, because the pupil is actually a hole. That's why it's referred to as the daughter, and then you have the 3 colors, which is the eye itself. Okay, so the Zohar. So this Shabbat is your eyes. Okay, so that's why on Shabbat, so we have clarity, and that's why on Shabbat, so there in a certain reality that there is no destruction on Shabbat. On Shabbat, we're able to regain our vision. We're able to regain our clarity in life, because we get our eyes back. We get our eyes back every Shabbos. So now, and this is why Shabbos is connected to the Beit Hamikdash, because how do we learn how to keep Shabbos? From how they built the Beit Hamikdash. That's how we learn Shabbos. The Torah 3 or 4 times. So it talks about Shabbos, it talks about the Beit Hamikdash. Why are they connected? Because the Shabbos gives us the same thing that the Beit Hamikdash gives us. The Beit Hamikdash was supposed to be the or of the world, it's supposed to be the light, it's supposed to be the thing that gives us clarity. And if you don't have the Beit Hamikdash, so what you have instead, you can use Shabbos as that tool, as that light. So now he writes that this is why when a person, it says Kol Hamikdash al Yerushalayim Zocha v'ra b'simchata. A person who mourns on Jerusalem, so he merits that he should see in the simcha of Jerusalem. So the more that we're connected to understanding that it's not okay that we don't have a Beit Hamikdash, so the more we are actually connecting to the Beit Hamikdash. So he writes that mit abel is a reference to lo tevaru ba'esh b'chol mashvatechem. Okay, the pasuk says on Shabbos that you shouldn't kindle fire on Shabbos. How does it say that? Lo tevaru esh b'chol mashvatechem. So lo, lamed, taf, aleph, bet, mem. Okay, that's the same letters as mit abel. To tell you that the greatest way to be mit abel Yerushalayim is through keeping Shabbos, through connecting to Shabbos, and that's why that it's by which pasuk of Shabbos is talking about that you shouldn't be any fire, because we said that fire is the opposite of light. That keep the fire away, the fire of destruction, the fire of Tisha B'Av, keep that far, far away on Shabbos. On Shabbos there's no room for fire, because on Shabbos there's only light, there's no fire. So Shabbos is what gives us our eyes. Shabbos is what lightens up our eyes. It's what heals us after all the crying that took away our eyesight, and that's why Shabbos is also the way to get clarity, even though there is a Beit Hamikdash. So Rebbe Nachman says that what is the clarity? What is the clarity? What is the sight? What is the sight that we're supposed to see? So we said that the number one is to see the path, the Torah. Or the Torah is supposed to give us a clarity of what should we do, like what should I do with my life. And there's another thing that we said that the Beit Hamikdash and the Torah is supposed to give us clarity about God. It's supposed to give us clarity about. But Rebbe Nachman says that's not enough. He writes, "V'ha'ikar lehistakel al atzma." That the most important thing is to really be able to look at yourself properly. Okay, to really be able to look in the mirror and know what you're saying. Okay, to be ready to look in the mirror and to really know how to judge yourself properly, know how to see what you see, get to know yourself. This is what we're lacking because we don't have a big Beit Hamikdash. That we're just confused about ourselves. That we don't know where we are. We don't know who we are. Rebbe writes that in the time of the Beit Hamikdash, so that this was what the Nevi'im would do. That you go to the Navi. You go to the Navi. It was like it was like much better than a career counselor. It was like, okay, Rabbi Navi, tell me my mission. Tell me, and he would tell you your mission. It was like this is what you're supposed to be doing. Go get to it. And he would just do it. Whether it's what's my mission in life. You're supposed to open a school. You're supposed to be an accountant. You're supposed to be a teacher. You're supposed to whatever. And you're supposed to be a scientist. And what all the different things that he would be able to see into ourselves and just tell us the way it is. Okay, just to see ourselves. And that's number one. Rebbe Nachman says number two is to know what we need to work on. To what we need to know our what's called in Hebrew it's called kochot hanefesh. Okay. So what's called what the kochot hanefesh is that what we are, what our build-up, our makeup, our spiritual makeup. That these are the things that we're good at. These are the things that we need work on. This is just where am I holding? A person can live in self-denial. A person can ignore their strengths. A person can ignore their weaknesses. And a person can just live in oblivion. And this is because they're what you call it. This is because they can't see. Because we're blind, so when Rebbe Nachman writes that so what he means is that because we don't have eyes, because of the light of the Beit Hamikdash going out, so we don't have a proper self-awareness. Okay, and this messes us up. This really messes up our ability to succeed in life because we don't know where we can. It's easy to fool ourselves. It's easy to think that we're doing okay when we're not okay. It's easy to think that we're not okay when we are okay, and we're just very, very mixed up of where we are in life. And this is what it means. That this is what these two tools that he gives us. That number one, the tzaddik, and number two, the Shabbos. That these are the two things that lighten up our eyes. Lehistakel al atzma. That we're able to have a proper self-perception, a proper, an appropriate, a real perception of self, that we should be able to see ourselves in the right light, to know where to go, to know how to work, and this is like the connecting to Beit Hamikdash. The more that we're in touch with ourselves, the more that we have our eyes back, the more that we have a perception. This is what Tammuz is all about. This is what the month of Tammuz is all about: is being able to see things for what they are. To get rid of all the lies of the world, all of the fogs in the world, all the things that are trying to make things not the way they really are. Like all of the lack of clarity. The famous this famous line from the Mesilas Yesharim that this world is like a darkness, that this because the truth is simply concealed. So because the truth is concealed, so you can make mistakes, and a person can think that a person is really a pole, and a pole is really a person, meaning that you could think that something which is good is really bad, something which is bad which is really good, and that's the lack of clarity, and that's why we have these people that they're sure that they're doing the biggest mitzvah and they're doing the biggest avera, and the people and the people that like just lack of clarity. So this is the thing that we're mourning, and the fact that we don't have a basic edition. It all started today. It all started from losing the luchot, from losing the Torah, from losing this clarity, losing the direction in life. So bless us all that we should be able to really use Rebbe Nachman's advice and be able to regain this clarity and really connect to tzaddikim, connect to the people that have some kind of direction, and not think that we can do it ourselves. That not think that I've got this, and always be questioning ourselves, and always be like trying to get to a deeper truth, and number two, to take the bracha of Shabbos and to recognize the Shabbos can lighten up our eyes. Like, this is a real thing. The person gets a certain clarity on Shabbos. The Chazon Ish, so he would the things that he wasn't clear about in his learning, so he would make a note and he would say, I'm going to think about it on Shabbos. And the Shabbos was the time that like everything slows down. You can get with peace of mind, you can just get clarity, and a lot of the clarity is really to be able to hear your own inner voice, which is really l'histakal al atzmo, to be able to see yourself properly, to be able to really be in touch with yourself. This is the clarity. This is the clarity that Shabbat gives us, and through Shabbat and through connecting to tzaddikim, so this is how we make a little bit of a comeback. This is how we make up for the loss of not having Beit Hamikdash. And that's why it says, like, that's why in the context of mourning tzaddikim, so that's why it says that gedola misas tzaddikim k'sreifas be'as Elokeinu, that when tzaddikim pass away, it's like when the temple is destroyed, because they're the ones that give us light in the world. So bless us that we should be able to find tzaddikim. Bless us that we should be able to get to clarity, and that we should connect to Shabbos. And the more clarity that we'll give, so this will be the lo tavar u'esh, so that it will fill the world with lightness, and when the world is filled with light, so then Hashem will take away all of the fire, all of the destruction, and that will bring the Geulah.